13th, and you are looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 5:21 a.m. Eastern Time launch from Cape Canaveral Space Launch Complex 40 in Florida. Hello from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Jesse Anderson, and I'm a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. You're watching a live webcast for our 9th Starlink mission and our 10th mission this year. It's been just 10 days since our last Starlink launch, which was also from Pad 40. For those keeping track, that's since our last Starlink launch. Small-sat rideshare mission on a Starlink launch. Our customer, Planet, who is the operator of the largest constellation of Earth observation satellites, is sending up 3 high-resolution satellites on this mission. These 3 SkySats will be joining 15 already in orbit, and 3 more will be deploying on a separate Starlink mission later this summer, which will complete their fleet of 21 SkySats. What's really quite remarkable is the contract for the rideshare was signed just 6 months ago. As part of our new rideshare program, we're offering sun-synchronous orbit missions approximately 3 times a year and have a frequent launch opportunities to mid-inclination. For details or to reserve your spot, head over to our website, spacex.com/rideshare. In order to make room for Planet's 3 SkySats, instead of launching 60 Starlink satellites, as we've traditionally done in the past, today we'll be sending 58 into low Earth orbit. Planet's SkySats will deploy in 3 sequential maneuvers beginning at about 12 minutes after liftoff, and the Starlink satellites will deploy approximately 14 minutes later, or 26 minutes after liftoff. Now, we won't see the Starlink satellites deploy today since we will not have ground station coverage at that time. However, we will keep the webcast going until we reconnect with the satellites at about T+39 minutes to get confirmation of a successful deployment. So we're at T-8 minutes and 10 seconds and counting, and all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this morning. If for any reason there is a hold on the countdown today, we do have a backup launch window opportunity tomorrow at 4:59 a.m. Eastern. On your screen is Falcon 9. This is our 2-stage liquid fuel launch vehicle, getting ready for launch from Space Launch Complex 40, or SLIC 40. Falcon 9 stands 70 meters tall, which is greater than the wingspan of a 747 aircraft. Today's flight will be the 3rd flight for this booster. It previously supported our most recent cargo Dragon missions, CRS-19 and CRS-20. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage, and if you look closely, you can see the soot markings still on the vehicle from its previous 2 flights. The first stage has 9 Merlin engines that do the bulk of the work to get Falcon 9 off the ground and up into the thinner parts of the Earth's atmosphere before separating from second stage and making its way back down to Earth for landing. Today, we will be attempting to recover this first stage for the 3rd time on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which you can see there on your screen, is out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, about 350 nautical miles northeast of our Cape Canaveral, Florida launch site. On top of the first stage is the interstage, which is that black segment of the vehicle. And the reason it's black compared to the rest of the vehicle is because it is unpainted TPS, or thermal protective system, which protects the composite material that the interstage is made of. The interstage is what connects the stage 1 to stage 2, and as well protects the second stage's single Merlin vacuum engine during launch. That Merlin vacuum, or MVAC engine, ignites after the first stage separates, propelling the second stage along with the SkySats and Starlink satellites into an elliptical orbit above the Earth's surface. From there, the SkySat rideshare satellites will separate, and about 14 minutes later, the 58 SpaceX Starlink satellites will deploy. Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since T-35 minutes. And as a reminder, Falcon 9 uses rocket-grade kerosene, or RP1, as our fuel, and super chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer. Currently, RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages, and LOX will continue to be topped off right until the last minute of the countdown. The stack of 58 Starlink satellites and 3 SkySats are safely enclosed inside of that 17-foot diameter payload fairing that you can see on your screen, which is that structure at the very top of the rocket. This protects the satellites from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we no longer need them, and we will jettison the fairing halves while the second stage continues to orbit. The fairing halves we are using today flew on previous but separate missions. One half flew on JCSat 18 in December of 2019, and the other half flew on our first Starlink launch in January earlier this year. Now, we will be attempting to recover the fairing halves today using our recovery ships Mystery and Mischief. There you can see them on your screen. At approximately T plus 40 minutes, the team will perform a poll to confirm if we're all good to make a safe catch attempt. Weather plays a big factor in the go, no-go decision for the catch attempt, as it can impact not only the sea states for the boats, but also the fairing's altitude, position, and speed, which impact how the fairing will fall back to Earth. Now, we've been keeping an eye out on some thick layer clouds for this morning's launch, but currently weather is looking good for T0. The vehicle, satellites, weather, and range are all looking good for an on-time liftoff just about 3 minutes and 45 seconds from now. For those of you that don't know much about the Starlink program, our mission is to bring high-speed, low-latency internet to people all over Earth. And every one of these Starlink missions gets us closer to achieving that goal. Some of the most exciting opportunities for Starlink are locations where traditional fiber or cable is simply not practical, such as rural or remote communities. It's also an exciting place for where fiber and cable are impossible, such as aircrafts or cruise ships. This is a big endeavor, and we have a lot of work ahead of us, but today's launch gets us one step closer to these ambitions. On our last Starlink mission just over a week ago, we captured some really cool footage of fairing deploy, which we wanted to share with you today. And there you can see on your screen the fairing deploy. You can see the second stage clearly with the Starlink satellites making their way to their targeted orbit. One of my favorite videos that I've seen so far. If you're interested in getting future news about Starlink, about our Starlink service, head over to starlink.com and sign up for updates. We're currently at T minus 2.5 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. The first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Super chilled liquid oxygen, which, as I mentioned earlier, is our propellant oxidizer. And that's what's creating those white clouds around Falcon 9 that you see on your screen there, and that's when it gets exposed to the warmer ambient air. First stage finished prop loading at T minus 3 minutes, and second stage at T minus 2 minutes. And coming up at T minus 60 seconds, there will be a call out that Falcon 9 is in startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. Then at about T minus 2 seconds, the Merlin engines will light and liftoff will be commanded at T0. The Starlink payload continues to be healthy. The Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. Weather is still looking good, and the range is green for launch. And as I mentioned, we are at T minus 1 minute and about 15 seconds here. So at T minus 1 minute, we will hear that call out for Falcon 9 being in startup. And from then on, the vehicle will basically autonomously make the decision if we will be launching today.
Falcon 9's in startup.
And there's that confirmation that Falcon 9 is in startup. Next up at T minus 45 seconds, we should hear the call out for a go for launch.
LD is go for launch.
And there's that call out for go for launch. So as we're approaching T0, it is T minus 35 seconds. Let's watch and listen into the nets and watch this liftoff of
T minus 30 seconds.
Of our Starlink payload with our planet's SkySats.
T minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of Falcon 9 and Starlink 8.
T plus 40 seconds into flight, and Falcon 9 has just had a successful liftoff.
Telemetry are nominal.
A successful liftoff from pad 40 for its first Starlink rideshare, carrying 3 Planet SkySats and our SpaceX Starlink satellites. Next coming up will be Max Q.
Mach 1.
And that is the maximum aerodynamic pressure that the vehicle sees, the largest structural load that the vehicle sees throughout ascent. Will be 3 events happening back to back, and that will be MECO, or main engine cutoff, stage separation, as well as second engine start, or SES-1. Main engine cutoff, or MECO, is when all 9 of the M1D engines shut off and slow the vehicle down in preparation for the next event, which is stage separation. And stage separation is where the first stage separates from the second stage, with first stage making its way back to Earth and second stage taking our satellites to their targeted orbit. And then finally will be SES-1, which is second engine start, with that MVAC engine lighting up and taking those
Vehicle is following a nominal trajectory.
and taking those satellites to orbit. Now those 3 events are coming up here in about 15 seconds. Again, that is MECO, stage separation, and SES-1.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
And there, as you saw live on your screen, MECO, main engine cutoff, and stage separation. First stage being on your left screen. On your right screen is second stage with that MVAC engine glowing bright red there. On your left screen, you can see those grid fins deploying on the first stage. Those grid fins help.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And we just had fairing separation. We had a successful deployment of those fairing halves. Let's see if Miss Tree and Miss Chief can make a catch
Vehicle
attempt today.
continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
And as I was mentioning, the grid fins have deployed. That helps guide that first stage back to its landing zone.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
Stage 2 is still looking good. We're getting a nice bright view of first stage on your left screen. And coming up next for first stage, as it makes its way back to Earth, it will perform a couple of burns, the first of which will be the entry burn. And that entry burn is where 3 of the 9 Merlin 1D engines light up and slow the stage down as it re-enters back into when the single engine on the vehicle, the E9 engine ignites and brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship. And again, we are attempting to land on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you today. We're getting a nice bright view. I believe that is the sun hitting that first stage on your left screen there. So really, really cool view of that. Second stage is still looking good. That is on your right screen. And at T plus 5.5 minutes, we're just about 1 minute and 15 seconds or so away from that entry burn beginning on that first stage.
Vehicle continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
There's that call out that the second stage vehicle is still on a good trajectory. And again, that first stage is making its way back to our drone ship. Of course, I still love you. With the entry burn coming up here in about 30 seconds or so. Again, if you're just now joining us, what you can see on your left screen is first stage with those grid fins deployed, guiding the vehicle back to its landing zone.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 entry burn has started.
And there you can see that the entry burn has begun. It's lighting up that screen pretty bright there. Now, the entry burn will last about 20 seconds long. And that completes the entry burn for first stage. We have a really cool view of Earth in the background of first stage. That is an awesome view. Stage 2 is still looking good. We're just about 1 minute away from that landing
signal
burn.
First stage from the Cape expected.
And we did hear that call out that we did lose that live signal of the first stage as expected. Coming up here in at about T plus 8 minutes and 21 seconds will be the beginning of the landing burn. Landing burn will last about 20 seconds long. And then hopefully we'll get to see first stage touch down on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you.
Stage 1 is transonic.
And about 10 seconds after landing of the first stage will be SECO 1 on second stage. So we will have a couple of events happening very close to each other. So we'll listen in and wait for those call outs.
Stage 2 has entered terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn has started.
And that landing burn has begun on the first stage. Again, this will last about 20 seconds long. Let's wait and watch to see if we can land this booster
Stage
for
2
a third
FTS
time.
is saved.
Stage 1 landing legs have deployed.
Wow, and we got a live, awesome view.
And
touchdown.
stage 1 is landed. Landing operators proceed to 11.100 on recovery 1 and ECF 9.
And there you heard that call out, and you can see on your left screen that stage 1 has landed on Of Course I Still Love You. We are waiting for stage 2 for SECO 1, which is second engine cutoff. What an awesome view of that first stage.
Nominal orbital insertion.
All right, starting TX prime
And
RF1A on.
We did confirm
Acquisition signal
SECO
Newfoundland, also
and
signal
confirmed
Cape
good
expected.
orbit. So now that second stage is going to coast in this orbit for a few minutes. We're going to take a quick break and return back at T plus 11 minutes and 30 seconds for the deployment of Planet's 3 SkySats. Welcome back to the webcast for Starlink. So far this morning, we had an on-time liftoff of our Falcon 9 vehicle, a good stage separation with first stage making its way and touching down on, of course, I Still Love You, which is the third landing for this booster. And second stage is still looking good. It is coasting and getting ready to deploy Planet's 3 SkySats. And as we actually see the deployment of these due to their placement on top of the Starlink stack where we don't have cameras positioned. So we may have to rely on confirmation over the nets. So you can see on your screen, this is the view of the Starlink satellites, and the 3 SkySats
Also
are sitting
signal
on
Bermuda
top
expected.
of them. Should be hearing a call out for the first SkySat shortly.
SkySat 1 separation confirmed.
And there's that confirmation that that first SkySat has deployed. Now these 3 SkySats. Oh, and it looks like we can actually see there's that first SkySat satellite. Pretty awesome view. We should hear a call out for the second one here shortly. They're deploying in about 30-second increments here.
SkySat 2 separation confirmed.
And there's the confirmation for the second SkySat. And since we saw the first one, I think we should be able to see that second one shortly here as well. And there you can see it. Very cool views today. Now we just are waiting for that third and final SkySat here shortly.
SkySat 3 separation confirmed.
And there's confirmation of separation of that final SkySat. These 3 SkySats will be joining 15 already in orbit, and 3 more will be deploying on a separate Starlink mission later this summer, completing their fleet of 21 SkySats. Now stage central axis, giving the Starlink satellites the momentum that they need to space themselves out over time after they deploy at T+26 minutes. And as I mentioned earlier, because we will not have ground station coverage at time of deployment, we will not have visual or audio confirmation of a successful deploy until we reach the next station at Diego Garcia about 25 minutes from now. So with that, we're going to take another break here and return back at T+38 minutes so that we can confirm live a successful deployment of our 58 Starlink satellites. Welcome back to the webcast for Starlink. So before we went to a break, we saw the successful deployment of the 3 SkySat satellites, which were ride-sharing with Starlink. At T plus 26 minutes, our 58 Starlink satellites were set to deploy. Since we did not have ground station coverage at that time, we are currently waiting to connect with the next ground station, Diego Garcia, at T plus 39 minutes, so in about 30 seconds here, and get confirmation of a successful deployment. So we're just under 30 seconds away from connecting to that next ground station, and we'll be waiting for our teams to confirm deployment after we connect. So we're going to listen in here shortly and see if we have confirmation of our 58 Starlink satellites deployed.
Acquisition of signal, Diego Garcia.
Is that confirmation of connection to the ground station?
Starlink tension rod separation confirmed.
And there is that confirmation of the tension rods. Shortly after they deployed, their solar arrays deployed as well, and over the next few days and weeks, they will distance themselves from each other with that momentum created by the second stage and use their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their operational orbit of 550 kilometers above the Earth, and then start beaming down high-speed internet to Earth. As you may have seen during our last mission, we launched the first Starlink satellite with a deployable visor to block sunlight from hitting the brightest spots of the spacecraft. This demo satellite, also known as VisorSat, is just one of the many actions SpaceX has taken in collaboration with leading astronomical groups to mitigate from seeing the results of that effort. However, we do have confidence in this design, coupled with all the measures we're taking to minimize Starlink's reflectivity. So we plan to equip all future Starlink satellites with deployable visors, starting with the next mission later this month, with leading astronomers to protect the natural night sky for all to enjoy. You can visit the updates section of SpaceX.com. And now that brings our webcast to a close. If you're interested in getting future updates about Starlink launches, as well as general updates about future service availability, head over to Starlink.com, sign up for updates, and we'll see you at the next launch.